We all know Batman and we all love Batman. He's one of the big three, DC's Holy Trinity, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. And we know he's a human, he's a dude, and he stands toe to toe with gods. So it's crazy for some to think that one of his sidekicks, arguably one of his most famous sidekicks, could outpace him, could be a better hero. I think the conversation that we got to have is he a better hero? I've talked before about how I don't really like power scaling, or would they win in a fight, because that depends on who's writing the story. But I want to talk about what makes Batman a hero and how he might have raised a much better hero, someone that could go on to lead the whole superhero community. We're talking about Nightwing, Dick Grayson. Funny name aside, he is the precedent for what Batman should be. As usual, I'm going to hit five issues from DC canon that I think highlight Nightwing just being a better hero. Let's start at the beginning. Let's look at Detective Comics issue 1000, celebrating the line of comics that Batman first appeared in. This isn't the original, this is obviously a reprint. But in this issue, we have an anthology series. An anthology of basically 11 stories that cover Batman's past, present, and future. If you want a jumping in point to the Batman mythos and you haven't really got into it before, this is a great place to sort of get acquainted with who Batman is. Anyway, the short story that I want to look at is called The Precedent. It's basically Batman near the start of his career. At least the start when he first adopts Dick Grayson after Dick Grayson's parents die. And right at the start of the story, Dick's figured out who Batman is. He's getting ready to become an active Robin, the first Robin. And it's a conversation between him and Alfred, Bruce and Alfred. Bruce is worried about the life, because his life is so steeped in trauma, and this is his mission, and it's dark, and it's on the dark night. Like, he's tortured, and he doesn't want the same future for Dick. While Bruce worries, Alfred consoles him, and he says, "Your path to Batman was a dark one, Bruce. Years of agony and loneliness fighting what you needed to become. You sacrificed all of yourself. You can give him closure, a way past that sacrifice. And with that, the little things, friendship, romance, they all will be easier than they were for you. You know how highly I think of you and your abilities, but he could make you better. He could be better. A hero, forged in the light." See, this short story of The Precedent could be seen as Bruce setting the precedent for adopting 1 million orphans and making them all crime-fighting heroes. Or it could be seen as the precedent for Grayson becoming the hero that they all should aim to be. See, Batman made a partner in Robin, whereas Grayson made a family, a Bat family, something of warmth and connection, which is something that's going to follow his characterization for the rest of time. The next issue I want to look at is Nightwing Volume 3, Issue 30. Okay, for people that know this Tom King written story, you're going to know that this is a fight. And I said at the start, I don't really care about power scaling. I don't care about who could win in a fight, but this is so much deeper than a fight. And I chose this fight for two reasons. One, there's plenty of times Batman and Nightwing fight each other in the comics, but this is a no bars hold. Like, they're going all out. No punches pulled. That's not really a thing that concerns me, though. There's something deeper going on under the surface of this fight that perfectly highlights who Bruce is and who Dick Grayson is. Now, as exciting as it would be to just end this video and say Nightwing wins this fight so it's better than Batman, would be disingenuous. And yeah, people often say that because Dick Grayson started off as an acrobat in the circus that he can do flips better than Batman. He's more agile. But flipping around doesn't really help you from getting your ass beat a lot of the time, especially from one of the most trained fighters in the DC universe, Bruce Wayne. He does win the fight though. I do want to highlight that he does win this fight. The fight starts off is after Grayson has been presumed dead. The Bat family believe he's dead. So he meets up with Bruce, and their biggest threat at the time was this spot called Spiral. Grayson wants to say hi to his siblings. He wants to let everyone know that he's safe and still alive. Bruce says, "You gotta keep up the cover of you being dead. This puts you in a great position for infiltration." They're getting in a fight. It's brutal. They're smashing each other through stuff. Tom King, the writer of this, has said in many stories that he thinks Nightwing could win in a fight pretty much every time. And yeah, okay, that's an author saying that, and you know, authors write stories, cool. That doesn't always mean consistent canon, and that's sort of the argument that I'm trying to prove. But Tom King does say something here. He says that Bruce is fighting him with all of his might. He is fighting him with all his might as a way of respecting Nightwing. In a way, Batman's saying, I'm going to fight you like anyone else because you are Dick Grayson and you can beat me on any level. And it's rough to watch, a father and son fight. Not great. But there are some moments in here, especially towards the end. Within this brutal fight, they're talking the whole time. Mainly, Dick is saying, I can't do this to my family. Bruce is saying you have to do this for the family. And then there's a certain exchange that really highlights their views on justice. While they're trading blows, Bruce says, why do we fall, Dick? We fall so we can learn to get back up. To which Grayson replies, no, that's not true. We fall because someone pushes us. We get back up to push back. See, my interpretation of this is Bruce sees this as an endless cycle. You can see that by the way he fights crime. He puts someone in Arkham, they break right back out, and the adventure continues, and he just keeps punishing crime. He gets pushed down so he can get back up, but there's no view on anything else there. Whereas Nightwing has a bigger picture view. He sees the injustice of it. We fall down because someone pushes us. We get back up to push them back. That's saying something. That's saying something different to what Batman's saying. Batman's all about the cycle of violence. Nightwing's about identifying injustice and stopping it. And no matter what run you look at, Grayson may be Batman's equal in combat, but there is a fundamental difference in their viewpoint on adventure and crime. The next issue we're going to look at is Batman issue 713. Now, this has Damian Wayne, the only blood son of Bruce Wayne, talking to some orphans, and is talking about the life of the Batman. Fairly early on, we're obviously introduced to Dick Grayson as the first Robin. It details their adventures, and it goes through, and Grayson is in a majority of this story. It talks about how depressed and alone Batman's war on crime really was before Dick Grayson came along. And as soon as Dick Grayson comes into the picture, Batman gets some light in the fight. And eventually, Grayson wants to go off and do his own thing. He wanted to be a more social hero, one with more human contacts, more for the people and with his other superpowered peers. They make a point to say when Grayson took up the Nightwing mantle, he wasn't driven by anger. These are emotions that Bruce is scared to show. The Dark Knight buried his compassion deep inside. He feared if he wore it outwardly, it would paralyze him like an armor made of pure pain. And then we get to the death of Batman. I mean, if you've been reading the comics for the last 15 years or so, whenever this happened, you know that Batman didn't die. Darkseid sent him backwards through time. Can't remember why. Just kill the guy. He's a dude. Whatever. Darkseid sends him backwards through time, and the mantle of the Bat is open for business. Now, I could have broken down the battle that the siblings have, that the Bat family have for that. But I think this story says a lot more. And it's in one issue. I only wanted to look at one issue for this. Damian says, with Batman gone, a battle for the cow was waged, and the most logical successor became the Bat. The original Robin became the new Batman. When discussing Bruce's life, a lot of it is about his legacy to the Bat family, specifically Grayson. And a lot of it is about how Grayson is the man to take the mantle, the man to carry that torch forward. Even Damian, who in a lot of runs is depicted as the guy that says, I'm his only blood son, I'm the only one that's going to get that mantle.
And maybe you need to go Master Dick.
Maybe you should remember who the blood son is.
Bloodthirsty's more like it.
Even Damian says in this issue that Grayson's the obvious choice. See, Batman isn't about who wears the cowl. It's about who Gotham needs, who the world needs, and this issue alone depicts Grayson as that. Okay, so I've talked about, some philosophical differences they've had. We've talked about the origin of Nightwing into the Bat family. We've talked about him being the natural born successor of the cowl. We've even talked about him beating Batman in a fight. Let's actually get into how he is a better hero. Fully formed Dick Grayson is a better hero. Nightwing Volume 4, Issue 83 is the next one I want to look at. Nightwing is a better billionaire than Bruce Wayne. What does Bruce really do with his millions? He spends it on crime fighting. He spends it on gadgets. He spends it on a plane and a boat and shark repellent. Awesome, dude. Yeah, sure, he's, set up an orphanage and some charities. But that's not... He's got way more wealth than that. He's one of the richest characters in fiction. And what's it saying? There is no such thing as an ethical billionaire. That sentiment is in this issue itself. So after the death of Alfred, rest in peace, my boy, Nightwing inherits billions from Alfred. Alfred was a secret billionaire. Now, not in this issue specifically, slightly earlier, it takes Grayson a while to decide exactly what he wants to do with his newfound riches. The first night that he has this money, he buys the homeless population around him and anyone around him free pizzas. Come grab pizzas. I've never seen Batman do that. That's a small thing. But he also, the homeless man that gave him the idea initially, the one that he was talking to as he thought to do this, he sets him up in a hotel. He sets him up, and yes, that homeless guy later dies. But that's not Nightwing's fault. That's a villain's fault. He's not relevant to the story. But just the fact that as soon as Dick Grayson has money, pizzas, hotel, man of the people type stuff. And after a bit of adventuring, he finally decides it's time to decide what to do with this money. He's not going to spend it on himself. So he goes to Superman. Slight little tidbit of information if you weren't aware. Superman and Nightwing are great friends. Actually, Superman, in most canon, my favorite versions of it, is the one that gave Nightwing the name Nightwing. He was talking about a Kryptonian hero who inspired hope and went away from their father's legacy. This is when Nightwing first left Batman as a Robin. So they're very tight. And something to highlight, he doesn't go to his father. He doesn't go to Bruce. In his own words, he says there's nothing heroic about being a billionaire. So he goes to Supes, and at this point in the comic, we don't actually see the conversation take place. We see them say hi to each other, and then we see the end of the conversation. After Nightwing's sort of worried that it's too small, it's not grand enough in nature, Superman says this: "It's not small, it's focused. I've always believed in leading by example, and the example you're setting here will inspire others. You're talking about lifting people, and if you're successful, the rest of the country, the rest of the world could see what's possible. Honestly, I couldn't think of a better role model. Thank you, Dick." So Dick Grayson, as Blüdhaven's newest billionaire, goes public. He says that he's setting up a foundation, and his first move is that he's going to eradicate homelessness from Blüdhaven within the month. After this, the next phase of his organization will be working on public and affordable housing, access to employment, prisoner rehabilitation, public transport, free renewable energy, healthcare, and a guaranteed living wage. A campaign to completely end poverty within the city and to catch the citizens of Blüdhaven that have fallen to crime, that have fallen to desperation. Now, that sounds like something Batman should do with Arkham. Arkham's a shithole, and people are breaking out of it all the time. People are getting abused in there all the time, arguably becoming more criminally insane. This is within days of becoming a billionaire. And of course, he names the foundation the Alfred Pennyworth Foundation. After a buzz media frenzy and the Batfam group chat blowing up over the texts, he does get a call from Bruce. And Bruce says, "Thank you. You've honored the legacy of Alfred." And Nightwing continues crime fighting. Not only has he put real-world billionaires to shame, but in his own words, there's nothing heroic about being a billionaire. He has proven that statement correct by giving it all away, putting him leagues above so many heroes around him. See, in the war against crime, Bruce funded fear. He wanted criminals to be scared of him, whereas Grayson funds futures. He wants them to be better. He cares about his city in a way that Bruce doesn't seem to care about Gotham. Okay, our last issue of the day, Absolute Power issue 2. This issue opens with Amanda Waller's plan to depower the superhuman community. Basically, she doesn't like how out of control superhumans have got. And by this point, over 80% of the superhuman community have either been incarcerated or depowered, and the remaining heroes are hiding out at the Fortress of Solitude. To be honest, everyone's bickering. The experienced Justice League members are fighting about who should be in charge. Batman's not helping. He even says to Superman, "You're not our best strategist. Whoever's in charge needs to be someone skilled at both tactical offense and team leadership." I wonder who he's hinting at. Mr. Terrific, having led the team, puts his hand up and is like, "Hey, That's me. To which Batman scowls, you don't have the years I do, Terrific, I should. To which Terrific, rightfully so, interrupts him and goes, you? Teams? And this is a pattern with Batman's leadership. He assumes control. He takes control. And sometimes that lands a team in trouble. Like, Tower of Babel, maybe. But Batman doesn't do teams in the same way that Grayson does. And I think this issue proves it. See, while the adults are bickering and arguing over who should take charge, Grayson perks up. He interrupts them all in a room where a lot of people don't even really know who he is. And then he delivers one of the best superhero speeches I've ever read. Grayson says, "For those of you who may not know me, my name is Nightwing, and these are the Titans. We're going to get through this because we know something Amanda Waller doesn't. What we're capable of. She thinks we'll fold without super strength or heat vision or power rings. Please. We couldn't if we wanted to. Villains always believe their motives are universal. But the only one Waller understands is her lust for authority and domination. She will never hear the call of selflessness. She will never recognize the will and commitment of each and every one of us to protect the helpless, to fight against injustice and tyranny regardless of the odds, and that will be her downfall." This even gets a "that's my boy" reaction from Batman, which is sort of ironic because a lot of that speech sort of also applies to him a little bit. In this room, he inspires more hope than Superman. He commands more authority than Wonder Woman. He shows these superheroes what being a superhero should be. He's lived up to his potential. That was outlined in our first issue, The President. And it's not like it's just this speech. Like, within this issue, he backs it up. He sends each of the heroes across on targeted missions, little target teams, dependent on their strengths and weaknesses. He also listens to input from Superman. He is leading this as the most compassionate, courageous leader that he can, raised by Batman with a strategic mind, but with a heart. And in doing this, he unites the superheroes in a way that not many heroes could. This isn't a way that Batman unites superheroes. Batman comes with a logical plan and is like, we need to do this. Superman goes, I'm all hopeful, and then asks Batman what to do. Like, this is everything that a hero needs to be. And in this moment, the heroes needed him. See, in a crisis, a hero leads by trust and morals, not fear and shadow tactics like Bruce does. In the 5 issues that we looked at today, we see that Dick's relationship with crime is not trauma-informed. It's not built around trauma like Bruce's is. Then we move to the next issue, and yes, he can beat up Batman, but he doesn't become Bruce in the process. The following issue, Batman 713, he is the obvious successor, obvious being the key word. And then the 4th and 5th issue we looked at, we see how he handles having power and wealth. When he has power and wealth, he gives it away and fixes his city of Blüdhaven. When in a room with heroes, he commands them with hope and has something to back it up with. See, this conversation isn't about who wins in a fight, who's better at throwing punches, who does more flips. It's hardly even about who smiles more, which is obviously Nightwing. It's hardly about who works in teams better, which is obviously Nightwing. It is more so about the hope for future. What the paradigm for a hero should be. And Nightwing is born from trauma, but is not defined by it. And he'll be able to help criminals and civilians alike by leading the example. See, Bruce is a hero that's defined by trauma. Yes, he's great, but he is blinded and stuck. The character growth isn't going to be there because that would make Bruce not Bruce. Whereas Nightwing is a hero that DC needs. Nightwing is the better Batman because he's what Batman should become without the shackles of his parents' death.